The mic is on. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight for the Athens-Clarke. Can you hear me? Is it on?
It's on. It's on.
Stop. Is the mic on?
No.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight, both those of you who are in the chamber here with us and also those who are watching us remotely on ACC TV. If you'd like to have an agenda to follow along with us, they're on the table just outside to the right of the exit doors. And if you're joining us if you're joining us remotely, you can get one on ACC.com, ACCgov.com, ACCgov.com. We hadn't had that very long, and I get my tongue twisted on it. If you have an electronic device, a cell phone or anything else, please turn it off or to silent. And there'll be several opportunities tonight for citizen input. The first is on our consent agenda, which are items 1 through 10, then old and new business, items 11 through 18. And then we have 2 recommendations from our Planning Commission, 19 and 20. Then there's one final opportunity for citizen input on any item that's not on tonight's agenda. Our rules of commission allow citizens 3 minutes for comment. A timer is on Ms. Spratlin's desk here. It will be green when you start. It'll turn yellow at 2.5 minutes. So please have your comments completed before it turns red at 3 minutes. Before we start tonight's business, I want to recognize I have a couple of recognitions.
Madam Mayor, I believe we need to take a roll call.
I'm going to do that before the roll call.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to do that before we started the business meeting. Thank you, Ms. Terry. So before we start tonight's business meeting, I have a recognition I want to do, but I have one recognition I didn't know we were going to do tonight. We have a young scout in the back there. Avery Shaw, would you like to stand up, Avery? Avery. Avery is here working on his citizenship badge, and he's here to observe government. So I want to do that the very first thing so that everybody would remember to behave themselves.
Too late.
And the other recognition we have tonight is our Athens transit system. Did Butch McDuffie come in? Oh, okay. So are you the only one that's going to accept the award? Oh, okay, great. Okay. And this award tonight is a result of, it's the Metro Initiative Solutions Award. And the award is based on the solar energy amenities that our Athens Transit has done, like the safety lighting at the bus stops, and also the development of smartphone charging stations at our bus stop. ATC will be featured in an upcoming issue of Metro Magazine, and Director Butch McDuffie accepted the award at BusCon's award breakfast on October the 3rd in Indianapolis. And so to accept this award, we've got, that's what I was asking about Butch, because I still don't see him. I thought he was going to be here. Pat Hale, Jennifer Hood, Philippe Max, Aftab Fazal, I hope I said that, yeah, and Victor Pope. So if y'all will come forward and accept the award. Glad I got your name right. It's good to see you. Yeah. Thank y'all. Thank you for the job you do every day. Thank you. And this is it, the Innovation Solutions Award presented to the Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County by Metro for 2018. You can come over this way if you want. In fact, you can come out the gate if you want to. It makes it, y'all, let's all stand together so I get the benefit of all of you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll just give you a nice little fact that I verified a few minutes ago, because when I saw this, I thought, well, you know, if we've ever had lighting in our bus stops before, wouldn't we've had to have drop lines? And I don't think we ever had lightings in our bus stop before, and we would have to have drop lines from the power company in order to light them if we were not doing this solar lighting. So that's another nice benefit. So, Ms. Spratt, will you call the roll for us?
Jefferson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Bailey. Eastman.
Here.
Bale.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Gertz.
Here.
And Hamby.
Here.
Okay, Ms. Dickerson? do you
Yeah,
wanna-
Mayor, I have a motion to reconsider item 21 from the October 2nd meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
This is, one of our members was not able to attend our last meeting, and I think that the issue has some significant bearing on his district, and I think he would like the opportunity to speak about it.
Yeah, it's a little more than that. Not only was I not here, that's not your fault, but we don't have a way to modify this plan or change the priorities. There's no process in place to do that. And perhaps even already, we need to be able to do that. So I don't think we should have a plan in place unless we have a process for modifying that plan. I have needs on the west side that I would like to be considered, that have not been considered, I think largely perhaps because of the makeup of the Citizens Committee that did this work. We were very much underrepresented. In the recent weeks, I've seen some issues on my side of town that has to do with particularly sidewalks or the lack thereof and the placement of bus stops, which have been rather serious. So I feel compelled for us to be able to put in place not only more discussion about the current priorities that are on the plan, but ways to change priorities and programs on the plan. So that's why I'm supporting this motion to reconsider.
Mr. Gertz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When we approved the Bike Ped Master Plan, or the Athens in Motion Plan in its title nomenclature, one of the things we agreed upon as a body, and management was on board with this as well, is that before we expended any funds on even design work regarding any of the priorities that were embedded in that plan for the first round of funds that are available, we're going to take it to a work session. So I see that as an opportunity to do exactly what Commissioner Neesmith is describing.
Ms. Ryan?
Right. And as one of the commissioners that didn't have any idea that this was happening, with a pretty full plate, I'm curious as to what plan has been discussed for those who want this reconsidered to be approved.
I hope there's somebody here that's willing to answer it. Who? Ms. Knight?
I also did not realize that this was going to be reconsidered. And if you'll note that in that plan, it calls for a citizen commission and a staff person to kind of help along further amendments to the plans and see the implementation of it. So the plan is wide open for amendment along the way. It's crucial that we keep the plan that we have in place and follow through with those recommendations that include possibilities for amendment. I mean, it should be a living document, and I think that was the intention of the language within the plan, to go back and reconsider it and basically deny what we approved a month ago, without that work session. If we want to reconsider it after having that work session, then let's do that. But we really need to delve deeper into it, because I feel like the plan itself allows the opportunity for those amendments and those change priorities.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, Madam Mayor. And to help move the discussion along, I don't mind actually reconsidering it. I think if we vote to reconsider, that'd be a worthwhile discussion that we're having now. So I see no harm in reconsidering for Commissioner Neesmith or any other commissioner to want to say what they have to say, and then we can either vote to move it along or vote to do whatever it is they're looking to do. So with that said, the question we're having to ask ourselves right now is, do we actually want to reconsider it?
Mr. Neesmith?
Right, Madam Mayor, thank you. I intend to support a motion to adopt or to accept the plan, but not yet to adopt it. I think it's kind of, well, for me, I object to the idea of adopting the plan that we're going to be able to modify, but we don't know how. I also have a problem with adopting a plan that sets priorities that we've had very little to say about. Those are the two problems I have with where we are today with that plan.
And Ms. Dickerson, did you raise your hand?
I think just the fact that we're talking about how we're going to modify it is a concern. We got a huge document in front of us and looked through that and agreed that there were some concepts that weren't quite finalized, and that's why we were going to have a work session on it. But I think that the bigger issue is we've talked about equity in everything, and we've talked about equity in this upcoming SPLOST project, and there's not a fair amount of equity in the grand scheme of things with either Tier 1 or Tier 2 projects that I can see. And I think that's reason for us to reconsider and have a discussion and get feedback from one of our other commissioners that was not able to. So we're just asking for reconsideration. We can talk about this at the end of the agenda.
Okay, are y'all ready to vote? Because we're only voting on reconsideration. We're not voting to reject the plan. So, Ms. Spratt, would you call the roll, please?
Dickerson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Link,
No.
Wright,
No.
Neesmith,
Yes.
Bale,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Gertz,
No.
Hamby.
Yes.
3 yes, 6 no.
So the vote will go to the, I'm trying to remember
It's the
the
other way.
rules of
It
order.
was the other way.
I'm thinking.
She
Gina, I
said
think you got
it's the
that
other way.
backwards.
6
No,
yes.
Well,
6 yes,
the
3
vote
no.
to
Oh.
reconsideration, but you weren't, because I thought you said something about moving to the end of the agenda, and that was what kind of threw me.
No, my understanding was from
Okay.
the clerk that this item would be discussed after all these other items. We would come back to this. That's what I was told.
After all the other items, I decide whether or not to ratify what they did last time.
Yeah.
Or take additional action.
But does it go all the way after planning and everything? Okay.
So, again, as one of the commissioners that didn't know this was happening, could I have the point of order of what's happening explained? I didn't get that explained before the vote, so let me know now.
Motion to reconsider the decision that was made has to be made before the minutes are approved.
Okay.
And so that's what we're doing. We're asking that we come back and have a discussion about the motion that we did make
Tonight,
tonight.
at the end of the agenda. Somebody prepare for this.
Okay, we'll move on now, and do I have a motion for the approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and do we have any written communications, Ms. Bratton?
Tonight, no.
And this is the point for, that we accept the first public input, and this is on the consent agenda. And these are items that have been discussed at prior meetings and have been recommended by the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and the management team for consideration as one item, and along with the agenda setting meeting. And those are item 1 through 10. So if anyone would like to talk to us about any one of those, please feel free to come to the podium. Okay. Do I have a motion for consent? Oh, I'm sorry. Sydney, I didn't mean to overlook you.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Sydney Bacchus, P.O. Box 174, and I'm here to discuss Tanyard Creek, item number 9 on the consent agenda. And it proposes $14 million from Athens-Clarke County Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund to evaluate and rehabilitate sewer lines. Back in the early 90s, when I was a student at UGA in the hydrology class there, we documented that problem, and we notified Athens-Clarke County. That was more than 20 years ago. So obviously, there shouldn't be a big rush to suddenly spend $14 million of those funds. My suggestion is that it be put into a SPLOST project and that SPLOST funding should be used. This is specifically requested because that's primarily a white area of Athens-Clarke County, and meanwhile, an African-American part of the county, Billups Grove Baptist Church, and the community at Dunlap Road, where the Athens-Clarke County dump was located, has been waiting for years and years and years to have the problem of their sewage sludge composting resolved. So I'm recommending that that $14 million be used to immediately address that problem instead of using it for Tanyard Creek, which can be used as a SPLOST project. The proposal that the city has, that Athens-Clarke County has recommended would increase threefold the volume of sewage sludge going to that area to be composted. And I have details in this letter that I'm going to provide after my comments that are way too long to be addressed in the 3 minutes that I have to address here. But basically, what the 27-page report by CH2M Hill states is that it would be to advance the ACC, ACC-UG Mayor and County Commissioners' strategic goals for sustainability, including the following goals related to biosolids management, which would foster an environment to decrease energy use intensity and associated greenhouse gas emissions by incentivizing efficient use and expanding the use of renewable energies. Also sustain a culture of conservation which maximizes waste reduction, increases the life of our landfill, and ensures waste is properly handled. And I feel that none of those are being upheld. I also want to point out that at the last work session meeting, I have 2 photos here that show that, in fact, the mayor and commissioners are generating unnecessary non-renewable waste products, including styrofoam and plastics. This was at a meeting where the head of the solid waste department was explaining how dire the situation is because the landfill is running out of space.
Ms. Bacchus, your time is up.
Thank you. So you can read the additional details in my letter here.
If you'll hand that to Mr. Berryman, or either one of them, they'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to any of the items 1 through 10? Okay, I see none. We'll come down the rail. We have a motion for the consent agenda.
I so move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This is the time now for citizen input on the old and new business, and those are items 11 through 17. And if you would like to comment on those, and again, I may not have told you, please give us your name and address and which item you're addressing.
Good evening, Tyler Dewey, 1075 West Broad Street. I'm addressing item 11. I don't know if anything has changed since this morning. My comments will address the modified CDO that we saw this morning. We want to be clear that Sharrows probably will not help any of the people riding bikes on Barnett Shoals between Whitehall and College Station. We think they are inappropriate on such a high-speed section of road. Bike lanes remain the best solution to increase comfort and safety for people walking, biking, rolling, and driving. Sharrows are designed to encourage people to ride in the center of the lane, to avoid parked cars, which is not a problem on Barnett Shoals, and to be more visible. However, a recent study in Chicago saw streets with no bike infrastructure have more ridership and fewer crashes than streets with Sharrows. Of course, streets with bike lanes perform the best. So doing nothing has more of an impact than adding Sharrows. Barnett Shoals is a 4-lane road with no on-street parking and a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. On Barnett Shoals, 15% of drivers are going faster than 47 miles per hour. Sharrows are not recommended for a street like this. The Federal Highway Administration's legally binding Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices says, quote, guidance, the shared lane marking should not be placed on roadways that have a speed limit above 35 miles per hour. Of course, it says should, not shall, so it is allowable, but not recommended. The National Association of Transportation City Transportation Officials, NACTO, a more bike-friendly guide, says, quote, generally not appropriate on streets that have a speed limit above 35 miles per hour. The City of Cambridge, which has used a lot of shared lane markings, says, quote, shared lane markings are not a substitute for bike lanes, but are a benefit on narrower, busy streets. Athens in Motion, Appendix B6 and 7, recommend Sharrows only in neighborhood bike boulevards. Indeed, the gentleman who invented the Sharrow has noted that they have anti-bike lane origins. He has said, quote, it was the city of Denver's reluctance to do much of anything for bicycles, so I figured this would be a less expensive approach versus the conventional bike lane markings. A lot of the agencies don't want to do anything involving change or spending money for bicycles. I was always under pressure to do less. Now, this Sharrow in the CDO is not a regular Sharrow. It is, in fact, an experimental design, so we don't yet know if it will work any better than a Sharrow. What is clear, no matter what the Sharrow looks like, it is not a bike lane. We still believe protected bike lanes are the best solution for making Barnett Shoals a complete street, a safe, comfortable street for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dewey. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Scott Aiken. I live on the east side at 112 Dobbs Drive. down Barnett Shoals. I drive by on that stretch of road where the bike lane is 4 to 6 times a day. It's caused a lot of traffic, bottom line. And I know that the people that live on the east side that responded to the survey, 73% of them said, we don't like the bike lane, let's figure out another way to do it. I think having something for the bikes is wonderful, but right now that bike lane is collecting debris. I've seen cans in it, lots of leaves right now. I know we had some rain today, but it's just collecting a lot of debris. It doesn't seem safe for a bike to ride through there. I have many friends who ride bicycles. They're like, I wouldn't ride on that. It's not safe. It's one wreck away from someone dying. So I would hope that you listen to the people on the east side, you listen to our commissioners, and you vote to get back to the 4-lane configuration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aiken.
Carol Myers, 260 Spalding Circle, here one last time, or maybe not, to speak to you about Barnett Shoals, item 11. I'm a cyclist, both for recreation and transportation. I'm also a board member of Bike Athens and a very involved member of the Citizen Committee for the Bike Pedestrian Master Plan. I also live on the east side. I will address my best choice for Barnett Shoals, the commission-defined option, and some ideas for moving ahead as we make Athens more bike and pedestrian friendly. My preference would be to restripe Barnett Shoals with 3 lanes and traditional bike lanes on each side. The effect on auto traffic times would be minimal, and auto speeds would be slower to close to the posted speed limit, making the area safer. For the future of cycling in Athens, the 2 bike lanes would extend the bike network beyond the bike lanes on College Station that we've already heavily invested in. Bike lanes would create a less dangerous biking environment for those commuting and for recreation and exercise. Concerning the commission-defined option that would add enhanced sharrows, I have a few points to make. At best, sharrows might communicate to auto traffic that bicyclists are allowed in the right lane of traffic. However, you need to be aware that the use of sharrows will not increase safety for the cyclist, nor increase the number of cyclists on the road, one of the key criteria for success in our, adopted our bike pedestrian master plan. Professional design guidelines pointedly state that sharrows are not appropriate for areas like Barnett Shoals. The National Association of Transportation Officials makes this clear in their urban bikeway design guide on streets with a posted speeds of 35 miles per hour or faster and vehicle volumes higher than 3,000. Shared lane markings are not a preferred treatment. Voting for the CDO may make you feel like you're doing something significant for cyclists, but based on professional expert opinions, the reality is otherwise. Ultimately, you all need to decide if spending $15,000 is worth it. That $15,000 is already tagged for bike infrastructure, so not funding the sharrows doesn't mean you are anti-bike. It means you'd rather spend it on other bike projects. Concerning the future, I'd like to suggest the following. It takes a big perspective transformation to rethink our roads as more than auto-focused infrastructure. We need to be proactive in educating neighborhoods about the new bike ped plan. I volunteer to help with that. We need to use the expertise of our design consultants, our Department of Transportation and Public Works, and our bike and pedestrian experts in the community. Please reach out to Tyler Dewar, Director of Bike Athens, and Elliot Caldwell, Director of Georgia Bikes, both Athens residents, as we review proposed designs and brainstorm on bike ped projects. I am much less of an expert than either of them, but I am now very, very familiar with our master plan and would welcome opportunities to review it with each and every one of you over a cup of coffee. Let's use all the effort and thought we've put into analyzing the Barnett Shoals project and work together to move forward on our bike pedestrian master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers.
Hello, I'm Micah Morlock, 616 Breezy Hollow. I'm one of the owners at Georgia Cycle Sport, a bike shop on Baxter Street. I moved to Athens in 1993, came here to go to school, and was a bike racer, and I started working at Dixon's Bicycles, and I was invincible. I could ride around these streets without bike lanes. I didn't need them. I wasn't scared of anything, and it wasn't a problem. Over the last 25 years, we've been yelled at, we've been pushed off the road, smoked by diesel trucks, hit by rearview mirrors, upset a lot of motorists because we impeded their progress. And over the last 25 years, talking to cyclists every day, that's what I do every day at my job, riding my bike. Things have gotten better over the last 25 years, and I thank you for that. We have great roads. College Station is amazing. It's changed people's lives. Baxter Street, where my business is, works phenomenally well. Please consider putting in traditional bike lanes. If we could go back and redo this project, and we didn't do the lanes that we did, and we didn't upset so many people of the way that that was configured, I think we'd be having a different conversation right now. Please consider doing something that's useful.
Thank you, Mr. Morlock. And I apologize for that phone. I have to ask all y'all to turn yours off. I thought I'd turned it off. Anybody else wish to speak to us? Okay, we'll come behind the rail now, and we'll start with our old business, item number 11. And we have a CDO from Dickerson Harrod and Neesmith. Who wants to speak to that? Mr. Harrod?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've talked a lot about this, and I'm sure a lot of people behind the rail and out in the audience are tired of talking about this, but I just want to make 5 points. So the first is that if we look at the genesis of this, we agreed as a commission that we were going to do a demonstration project to decide whether to put in a permanent feature, make permanent the feature that was installed, or whether we would restripe with the pre-existing configuration. Those were the two options that we agreed upon. Now that it's evident that what we have out there does not seem to be working, I came home today and I saw a cyclist in the spandex coming up College Station Road, turning right and going straight towards Watkinsville on the right-hand side, on the fire station side of the road. So a lot of people are even what I would consider to be serious cyclists, and I'm not one of those people, are not using the facility we have out there. We have, according to our staff, an average of 12.4 cyclists using that facility per day, and we don't know how much of an increase that was before it was put in, because we don't have data for before it was put in. But it's not a lot. And now, we're hearing about, well, maybe we shouldn't have tried that, we should have tried something else. That's moving the goalposts. We agreed it was either that or we would go back to what we had before. And I think if we break our trust with all of the people that live out there by doing something different, that's the reason people don't trust government anymore. The second thing I want to say, so the argument's been made that 3-laning will improve safety. On this stretch of road, the evidence doesn't back that up, and I believe Commissioner Dix is going to talk a little bit about this as well. So it is true that speeds have been reduced, but they've been reduced by a minimal amount, about 4 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile still remains above 40 miles per hour. If you look at the data that was provided to us by staff for traffic on October the 4th and the 5th, which is interesting data because it gives us the traffic counts and speeds every 15 minutes. If you look at those data, what you find is that the lowest speeds are at rush hour. So on October the 4th, between 8 and 8:15 a.m., the 85th percentile speed was 42.5 miles per hour, with 291 vehicles passing along the corridor. If you look between 10 a.m. and 10:30, the 85th percentile was 43.6 miles per hour with 206 vehicles, and between 10:30 and 10:45, it was 44.3 miles per hour with 220 vehicles. You can look at other patterns at other times of the rush hour, non-rush hour traffic during the day. What that tells us is that 3-laning is not reducing the speed. What's reducing the speed is traffic volume. Safety is not just about speed, it's about volume also, and it's about the ability of traffic and bicyclists to maneuver in the space of the street. Merging has become much more dangerous coming from South Barnett Shoals Road at the Whitehall intersection. There have been 2 accidents along this area by the the College Station Road intersection since the demonstration project has gone into effect. That is more than we've had between January the 1st and August 31st of this year. So in the handful of weeks, we've had double the number of accidents that we had in the entire rest of the year. So there has also not been a problem with accidents involving cyclists. Between January 1st, 2013 and the present, between College Station Road and Whitehall, there was a single accident involving a cyclist. That was in 2014, and that was involving somebody crossing the road, not riding along the road. There have been 0 accidents involving pedestrians along that part of the corridor. Point number 3 that I'd like to make, the level of service dramatically diminishes from a level B to a level D at College Station Road by 2028 and a level C at Whitehall, according to our staff. And this doesn't even take into consideration the anticipated increase in traffic when Kroger is redeveloped. And Kroger is already moving ahead. They've already started to tell people, businesses, that they're not going to be renewing their leases. Transportation and Public Works used the GDOT multiplier of 0.55% traffic increase per year to calculate likely throughput 10 years from now. But in an email to us, Commissioner Dickerson and myself, Transportation and Public Works staff said that was probably too low and that they would have probably preferred to use a 0.8% increase per year. The average delay at College Station Road is 20 seconds in the afternoon and 13 seconds in the morning. That doesn't sound like a lot per vehicle, and it's not. But if you count the entire number of vehicles going through that intersection on the morning of October the 5th between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., that was 2,750 vehicles. That totals a combined delay of 15.3 hours. And between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., there were 3,668 vehicles that went through there for a combined delay of 13.2 hours. 4, very quickly. There's been some discussion about keep it at 3 lanes and put in traditional bike lanes on either side. According to the report that we all received from Transportation and Public Works called Barnett Shoals Road, Whitehall Road to College Station Road Bicycle Facility Feasibility Analysis, on page 4, it's talking about traditional bike lanes. It says, without widening, space is not available for flex posts between bicycle traffic and vehicular traffic. So if we were to 3-lane this, there isn't enough space to put in bollards to separate the bike lanes and the traffic, and the vehicular traffic. And my final comment is, we asked the public to comment on this. We got more comment on this than I think on pretty much any other project, certainly since I've been on the commission. And whether you like the numbers or not, the fact remains that 73% of the people that responded said, please don't make permanent what you've got out there. And I think it would be outrageous to ignore those people. So I see my time is up, and I will finish.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple things I want to make sure that everybody understands. So the CDO was put forward as an opportunity for us to raise awareness of bicyclists on that road. We don't currently have sharrows on there. So the idea of putting the green thermoplastic paint down, originally the idea was a lane or a continuous stripe. We've since been told that isn't feasible or not something that the highway officials would allow, and so we backed off of that. But the intent is, at a minimum, we want to raise awareness that there are bicyclists that use that road. So that was part of it. We also have a responsibility to accommodate the motorists that who rely on a car. There really aren't walkable areas out there. We're not in town. We're outside. We're suburban. And the Bike Ped Master Plan made it very clear that this design is not a suburban design. It's an urban design. And the other thing we're trying to accomplish with the CDO is to provide some connectivity. Right now, the connectivity ends at College Station Road. We're looking at trying to extend it all the way to Barnett Shoals, the north end, which right now doesn't have a plan because we don't have Kroger development. So there's no connectivity, any type of plan to get to one part of Barnett Shoals and to the other, or to even connect to Cedar Shoals, where there's already delineated bike facilities. So we were trying to accomplish that. I'm going to point a couple things out. Commissioner Harrod raised several, and I'll add to those. Corridor traffic volume. The first and most important thing, and I'll probably believe this till my grave, because I look at data a lot. I don't agree that we should even be talking about this in the first place, because I don't think we met the policy that we set for ourselves. And there's just a bottom line is I just don't think that we met the criterion that should have triggered this. So the bottom line is staff had told us that a realistic growth rate was 0.8, but we used 0.55. If you use a 0.8%, as they said that they would do for a traffic study, that would put us at 20,051 vehicles in 2026, which is within that 10-year period, which means this road would be ineligible for 3-laning. In addition, if you look at 2017 average daily traffic volume that we were provided by staff, that was 17,880 cars. In 2018, post-demo, so after the demo, there were 18,133 cars. If my math's right, that's a 1.4% increase. That's almost double what staff said they would use. So the cars we're increasing volume on that road, and that's a reason not to 3-lane a road. The corridor crash rate, everybody got the report that Commissioner Harrod and I and Neesmith sent out. there isn't a crash issue on this road. There has been since we started this. And, you could say, well, that's just because, it's new and people are trying to get used to it. But we haven't had a crash issue on this road. The crashes, what's interesting is I went back and looked at all the data that we've had from our other 3-laning projects, and I'll point out a couple. I'm more than happy to provide this information data to anybody that wants it. But staff provided us crash summaries for Hawthorne Avenue, which was 3-laned in 2008. Between 2006, from the agenda report that the clerk gave us, and then until 2017 with some data from staff, the crashes along that corridor have increased 65%. The crashes on Cedar Shoals Drive between 2002 and 2017, based again on the same data that we had, have increased 37%. So I don't, if we're looking for safety, 3-laning is not necessarily the way to go, and we've got evidence showing that. The other thing I'd like to point out is that we've been told that there will be a delay, of as much of 16% delay in time to get through that corridor. There could be as much of a not delay, a easier way of getting through there in 13%. Okay, but the bottom line is, worst case, we can't plan when these emergencies are going to happen. They could happen in a period of time when there's a delay that's about 16%, and that could be the cost of someone's life. We already have people that live way far out on that side of town, and to have to get through that area with emergency vehicles with a slowdown is not acceptable. Commissioner Harrod mentioned that safety isn't always about speed, and I, again, would agree. It's also about volume. And the fact that there has been, and you can go back and look at Hawthorne, and Hawthorne more specifically than Cedar, but there's been an increase in volume on Hawthorne, and that probably has contributed to the fact that there are more crashes. And that's just a fact. That's just a statistical thing. The more cars and more bicyclists there are, the more likely there's going to be an incident. So what we try to do with our CDO is to strike a balance for motorists and bicyclists. We're trying to listen to the public. We're trying to be thoughtful about how we can move towards getting bike lanes in that area or bike facilities in that area, and we're trying to follow what the Bike Ped Master Plan said, which is for a separated facility. So if it's important to those behind the rail and the bike groups in town to get bike facilities and to get what we consider 51, the bulk of the bikers, which is 51%, then I suggest that the mayor and commission make that a top priority and move that project up in the tiers and build a separated facility as what was recommended along that road.
Are you going to make a motion?
And I would like to make a motion to for the CDO to be approved as written. Do I need to read it? Do you want to read it?
I will second it. So that is that
Go ahead,
appropriate?
please.
So the motion would be as follows. It's in 3 parts. At 1, Mayor and Commission approve the immediate repaving of the section of Barnett Shoals between Forest Road and Whitehall Road and return the lane configuration to its 4-lane previous pre-demonstration state. 2, direct staff to petition the Federal Highway Administration for approval and subsequently to install, if approved, bike shower lane markings with green thermoplastic under the symbols only within the outside travel lane on both the northbound and southbound lanes of Barnett Shoals Road between Whitehall Road intersection and the Cedar Shoals Drive intersection as shown on attachment number 1. The funding for this would come from one or a combination of the following sources. A reallocation of approximately $15,040 from presently available SPLOST 2011 project number 6 bicycle improvement program funds. B, reallocation of approximately $15,040 from projects identified for funding using T-SPLOST funds in Tier 1 of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. C, some other source to be identified by the manager's office. And the third aspect is to retain the option to build at some point in the future to be determined by the Mayor and Commission the separated facility as included in and recommended by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, page C3, project ID 66 Barnett Shoals Road / Whitehall Road.
Thank you, Mr. Harrod. Mr. Neesmith, you wanted to say something?
Yes. The reason that I support this commission-defined option is that, first of all, I agree that the 3-laning just isn't working, and that the rate of traffic growth in that area is going to increase even faster than it is now, and the 3-laning will become obsolete in a short while. And the last reason, a big reason, is that we've always talked about, we've seen diagrams of a dedicated facility going through the parking lot of the shopping center there where the new Kroger will be located. We've had that right-of-way for, I don't know, 16 years, 12 years. going through the Kroger parking lot. We've done nothing with it. It doesn't even have paint. So we've got that. We've got a solution, and yeah, longer term, there'll be more money to spend on it in order to make it a dedicated bike and walking path. But that's what we need to do on that street, not bike lanes. They have a short life. So I'm supporting that we go to the dedicated facility as soon as we were able to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neesmith. Ms. Bryant.
Yeah, I wanted to speak, I guess, clearly as the minority behind the rail on this topic, it seems, as well as the minority of the people who are in support of three-laning, have appreciated. I've been reading ever since we've had this on 2 of our cycles, so we've had a lot of reading and research to do. The Commission Defined Option has changed as well with the input and processing, so we've had a lot of input. The campaign to get the people to talk and get their voices out has been clear, because we have had a lot of that. We've had, and I'm for the improvements that are made with 3 lanes and the less speeding and the miles per hour coming down on the vehicles. I've heard people say that it's horrible, and I've heard people say it's fine. I've heard people say they've never seen bikes. I've seen people who say they bike it, commute twice a day. So we've got the full spectrum. So for support of what I think is the best solution, I agree with our speaker who came forward that 3 lanes with this very 21st century solution of 1 bike lane that has 2 directions in it with things sticking up, that has been something that a lot of people hate and don't want to see. That test did not go over well, and I do believe that if the test had been with our more traditional bike lanes that we have invested in the community, the ones that are on Barnett Shoals between Lexington Road and the turn to where it turns in, that part that's almost a complete street, the College Station, the 3-laning, and it matches those. It matches the successful 3-laning on Lumpkin as well as Baxter. If the trial had been done with that, I think that the war against this would have been a little less divisive. So in honor of the minority, I would like to do a substitute motion that we vote and put on the record that we did vote on 3-laning it with 2 bike lanes, 1 at each curb, with the improvements that Transportation and Public Works said on the turn, the curve. They talked about, remind me what that's called when you lower the curve.
Rollover.
The rollover curve, minimal amount there. I don't think it was ever discussed as being feasible to have those things sticking up for when there's 2 bike lanes. So that's not really part of this discussion or my motion. But I'd like to get that motion on the record, and I hope I can get a second.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, any discussion on this motion, on the substitute motion? Mr. Gertz.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to offer support for the substitute motion in that there's been a wealth of analysis of the kind of 5-lane notion of 2 traditional bike lanes with 3 vehicular lanes. We've tended to use 20,000 vehicles a day as a norm. A lot of jurisdictions use 25,000 vehicles a day as a norm for their kind of upper barometer of analysis when it comes to application of this kind of facility. I think it's pretty clear the bidirectional, on the east side of Barnett Shoals was a funky alternative. The bollards made it even more visible. I think the notion of having that seems so stark and so different than simply what we've done before simply wasn't an application that worked in this environment. There might be some other places in town it would work. Maybe there aren't any others. But we do know, really Hawthorne is the only unsuccessful conversion that we've had, and that's in large part because we simply don't have sufficient right-of-way to do everything that we need to do at the moment, and I certainly hope in the future we do have additional right-of-way. TPW's looked at an additional 30-foot gain at a future date on Hawthorne Avenue. But I think comparable to what we've done on Lumpkin and Baxter, we would see good use of this, and we'd see enhanced safety. 4 miles an hour may not sound like much, but the World Health Organization has noted that every mile per hour in speed reduction that you have of vehicles creates enhanced safety for all users, including those folks in vehicles. The practical thing that happens on the street is people simply aren't jockeying to move left to right from one lane to another. That's compelling, particularly compelling when we do have more users. So, I mean, in fact, the Kroger redevelopment makes this an even better application, as we've had additional multifamily development on Whitehall Road, and we've had quite a bit of development past the old Charlie Williams on the right, too. So I'm going to support the substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Gertz. Ms. Dickerson, then we'll come back to Ms. Link.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll rebut what Commissioner Gertz just said about the amount of cars that are appropriate for a 3-lane. According to the Highway Capacity Manual, which is referenced in our 2004 policy, it supports a 20,000 volume per day upper limit, and it does talk about they're only comfortable with 20 to 23,000. So we're going to be there before too long. I think the main thing I want to say about this is Sharrows and bike lanes essentially target the exact same bicyclists, the 5 to 7%, the people who are the road warriors, people who are going to get out and, you know, take their life in their own hands being next to a car, is not getting at what we said we want to be as a bike-friendly community. The 51% of the people like me, I'm not going to go out on the road. I'm going to go on a bike path, on a greenway, on a firefly trail. I'm not going to do that. So we're not moving the needle forward with either Sharrows or with bike lanes on the road. We're going to move that needle forward by having the proper infrastructure and actually investing in that infrastructure. And the East Side deserves, you know, infrastructure that supports people who want to bike, whether they're biking to work or biking for enjoyment. And you know, bike lanes on the road are not going to do that.
Link.
Yeah, I'm just a little disturbed by us having this conversation about removing bike facilities from this road. Sharrows are not bike facilities. They're basically glorified signage, I guess. But I'm disturbed that we're having the conversation about removing those bike facilities or any consideration of bike facilities without talking about traffic calming. We have a roadway where we have cars going, I believe, 47 miles per hour was the pre-project speed. And even with the project, the 85th percentile speed is still 42 miles per hour. It's a 35 mile per hour speed limit. I personally believe maybe the speed limit should be lowered. And we should talk about other traffic calming measures, including crosswalks, you know, medians, a holistic approach to this roadway that includes bike facilities and includes traffic calming. And I'm also very conscious of, you know, the cost for shared use paths and the vast needs we have across the county to get bike facilities in wherever possible. I'm curious, does management have a general estimate as to how much it would cost to get that off-road shared use path along this stretch of road? Didn't we see a
It's in the agenda.
We had three different versions.
It's in the analysis.
Because I'm,
There's a lot.
and it's been a while since I've looked at it. Yeah, I mean, isn't it in the millions?
Depending on which side, 800,000 to 1.2.
Yeah, 800,000 to 1.2 million dollars. We only have a few million in our bike facility T-Splosh budget. So, you know, that's money that needs to be spread out. I really feel like this road needs a more comprehensive approach. You know, and ideally, I would like to see it restriped to an approach that we haven't seen yet, which is your traditional bike lanes on either side, 3 lanes, and see how that works. If we could go with the temporary paint to do that and let it play out for 6 months to a year and really gather some data and allow staff to do like what they did on Chase Street to offer some more comprehensive long-term solutions to the detailed problems along the road. Ideally, that's what we should be doing. You know, so I support the motion to go with the traditional bike lanes on either side, and I would like to see a more comprehensive analysis of this road. That includes traffic calming, that includes crosswalks. I know folks who live on either side of that road who would like to be able to walk to visit their friends. They only live a mile or so apart, but it's not safe to do so. You know, this needs to be a discussion that goes far beyond just whether or not we're going to have bike facilities on this road.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak before we vote? Do a roll call, Ms. Bradley.
I would like to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Harrod, I didn't see you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm glad to see that so many commissioners that don't live anywhere near this seem to know so much about it, so I want to correct some facts. The speed limit out there is not 35 miles per hour, it's 40 miles per hour. So the College Station Road has bike lanes on the either side because it was widened. We widened it. We spent millions of dollars widening it. We're talking about spending millions of, or I don't know if it's millions, but hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to increase the level of service along College Station Road from its current C to a B. And now we're talking about, as our own staff are suggesting, if we go to just the traditional bike lanes, we're going to go from a level of service of B to a level of service D at College Station Road and a level service C at Whitehall. So that is, we're going to end up with having to fix this in the future. We're not taking, Commissioner Link said we're taking bike facilities out there. We're not doing that at all. What we're saying is, let's do what's in the bike ped master plan, which calls for an off-road, multi-use path. That is much safer for pedestrians, it's much safer for bicyclists, and it's much safer for people that drive in cars. So I just wanted to correct some misunderstanding, if I'm being misunderstanding. The issue with the fire department is really important. Firehouse 7, we're talking about the delays. The fire department is telling us that they are experiencing delays. That firehouse services campus because it's one of 3 firehouses that has a ladder truck that has ladders that are tall enough to reach high buildings such as some of the dorms on campus. So if we want to talk about safety, let's talk about safety. And what happens, God forbid, that a fire truck is held up when there's some fire at a dorm.
Anybody else before we vote? Ms. Dickerson.
Two last little notes. One of the speakers said something about not having bike sharrows on roads unless they were 35 miles an hour, but Whitehall Road is a 45 mile an hour road and it has bike sharrows on it. And it seems it's not great, and we certainly need to address that in the future, but that's not the road we're talking about. But I think it's important to point that out. I think the other thing is, it needs to be pointed out that during the trial period, the average speed was slowed by only 4 miles per hour, which and still remains above 40. But at 40 miles per hour or higher, the survival rate for a pedestrian cyclist hit by a car remains at 15%. That's according to the Bike Ped Master Plan. So we're not changing that either. You know, we're going to get down to 5 miles an hour. Maybe we'll save some lives, but we're not going to change anything. So again, I'll go back to the fact that we're increasing volume on that road. It's not just about speed. It has to do with the number of cars. And the statistics are more cars, more potential for accidents. We've seen that on Hawthorne. We've seen that on Cedar. So I guess I'll call the motion.
Call the
question. I'm sorry.
But we have to vote on calling the question. You have a second for calling the question?
Jerry wanted to say something.
I know, I thought Sharon called the question. Okay.
I second calling the question.
Okay, I've got to make an executive decision now.
Commissioner Dickerson can withdraw.
I withdraw it.
Thank you.
Mr. Neesmith.
This dissing sharrows that we heard from the audience is, as far as I can tell, is one study in Chicago, which gets cited over and over and over again. And the data is not clear as to why is it that doing nothing is safer than a sharrow? Why would that be? It doesn't explain that. It doesn't have an explanation. There's a lot of towns that are using sharrows, and they have to be used in the appropriate place. If it's an appropriate place for bike lanes, then a bike lane should be used. But the benefits of sharrows are widely hailed, and I won't go through them. They have to do with awareness. They have to do with bringing the bicyclist away from the curb. They have to do with discouraging cars from passing the bike too closely. There are many benefits, and not the least of which is just awareness that bikes have their right to be here. So I don't dismiss the use of sharrows as a safety feature like some people seem to do. I don't think that the literature really supports that. And I have a street, Cleveland Road. The speed limit's 50 miles an hour, and it has sharrows. It's probably not safe, but we're not going to be putting bike lanes out there anyway, anytime soon. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ms. Spratman, would you please call the roll for us?
This is substitute
This is
motion.
substitute motion, yeah.
3 lanes for vehicles, 2 lanes for bikes.
Okay. Wright,
Yes.
Neesmith,
No.
Bale,
No.
Harrod,
No.
Gertz,
Yes.
Hamby,
No.
Dickerson,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Link.
Yes.
4 yes, 5 no.
Okay. So we will go back to the original motion. And is there any further discussion on that? Y'all ready to vote? And this is the substitute motion, or the CDO by Dixon, Harrod, and Neesmith to go back to 4 lanes with the Sherrills. Would you call the roll on that one, please?
Dickerson,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Link,
No.
Wright,
Oh, no.
Neesmith,
Yes.
Bale,
Yes.
Harrod,
Yes.
Gertz,
No.
Hamby.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're confusing me, Gene, by the roll call.
5 yes, 4 no.
She's doing it differently tonight.
She did, didn't she? I was
Call back numbers, didn't you?
my number.
Stay on your game here.
I'm having
Okay.
to think too much, Gene, sorry.
Okay, for those that might have had a hard time following, we're going back to 4 lanes with Sherrills. We'll now go to item number 12, which is the Southeast Sustainable Communities Fund grant.
I make a motion, we accept the staff A, B, and C.
Second.
Motion is second. Anybody dying to discuss it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Item number 13, Safe Routes to School Projects, concept approval for Winterville Elementary School.
I have a CDO, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So there was a sidewalk gap that that does fall within the parameters of the Safe Routes to School. It connects Oakmont subdivision to the city limits of Winterville. The Winterville city had already expanded the sidewalk to its limits, and there's a 250-foot distance that needs to be completed that was outside the city limits, and so I'm asking that we include that. That will connect up a lot of kids that would like to walk to school, and that cost, according to staff, is $12,400, and there is money within that budget to do that. So I would ask for approval of that.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the CDO. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 14 is pedestrian safety improvements at Gaines School and Hilsman.
I want to ask for some clarification because I think I found, on option 1, it's referring to the timeline for the duration described in facts in issue 7. If we can correct that, I think it's referring really to 6, where you guys have added that Transportation Public Works staff will evaluate whether this mid-block crosswalk should be retained, right? So we're going to align the option up with number 6, and I see that, I think it's already there, and we're just approving the sheriff's safety, putting it in faster, and we're just approving the continuation of it. Am I getting that right?
Yes, the police chiefs allow by law to approve a traffic modification that's only good for 90 days. It's temporary.
Okay.
And when requested, and the school had requested this, the police chief approved that temporary installation, and of course, we're coming to you for ratification during the construction of the school. At the end of the construction of the school, we'll reevaluate it and bring it back to you to whether you'd like to continue it or not.
Yeah. Well, since they're thinking about tearing it down, we might we'll consider what's going on when that's going on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So one side of this is the district I represent, and one side is the district that Commissioner Parker represents. So, and we had both, as I recall, talked about the option to consider at the end of this project whether it could be retained, and I'm glad to see that that's in there. So I would like to make a motion to approve. I don't know whether Commissioner Parker wishes to second that, or?
I second that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 15 are items for discussion with the 2019 local delegation. And does anybody would like to start that discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Neesmith.
I apologize for not doing a commission-defined option on this, but it's really quite simple. Some of you saw the email I sent out where I purchased a ticket online, and it informed me that I paid Oconee County sales tax. And it made me wonder, as I always have, how much of Oconee County sales tax are we paying in the 30622 area code whenever we do online purchases? I don't know. I don't know who knows, and that's a problem. So I would like to ask the local delegation to once again address the collection and accountability of sales taxes collected on online purchases as an additional item to this.
If I could second that, I would.
I'll
Do I have a
second
second to the CDO? Yes, sir.
I'm going to support that addition. And just as a quick note, ACCG in their Region 5 meeting that's upcoming at the end of November has this on their agenda for conversation. I'm going to be at that meeting, so I'll report back just to let everybody know kind of what the region's talking about. It seems like this is something that is on a lot of people's minds.
May I make one more comment?
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is technically a difficult problem to solve because all that the online seller has is, well, they have your street address, so determining what jurisdiction you're in is possible, but quite complex. What they have is your area code or your zip code, and 30622 is in 3 counties. So they default to the town, which is Bogart, which is 2 counties, but they default to Oconee County. You know, if we did nationally, if we aligned our zip codes to our political jurisdictions, which is totally technically feasible, we wouldn't have this problem. It'd be a very easy problem to solve. So take that with you, Kelly, to this meeting.
I'll see if I can talk to the U.S. Post Office next time I'm in D.C. too.
Ms. Terrett.
Well, and also just to follow up on that, I mean, if the Department of Revenue would share their database with us, this also would not be an issue because the local tax commissioners, I think, are much more qualified and capable of figuring out where tax should or should not be being paid than some bureaucrat in Atlanta. So the Department of Revenue has been unwilling to do that because they suggest that local government can't keep a secret. Well, the state's not doing such a great job either.
Anybody else want to make a comment on that? Okay, any other item? I just added that to our list.
Madam Mayor, I have one.
Yes, sir.
I apologize, I'm kind of like Commissioner Neesmith, I don't have the language right now, but I could come up with it, basically just allow for, within a historic district, allow for those that are considered non-contributing or non-conforming to also receive the benefit, if the local government so chooses, of the tax break. So maybe something general along the lines of, what am I trying to say? Non-conforming and non-contributing tax benefits within a historic district. And just leave it for discussion when we have if this is all we're doing, is just having a discussion with the local delegation.
Because it'll be for discussion purposes.
If y'all don't mind, I'm sorry, I should have gotten that to you earlier as well. If anybody has any questions about it.
I agree with Mike. That would be a good thing to pursue. But I also recall in our work session about this, we talked about expansion of our downtown development authority as the boundaries of our downtown area have expanded. We haven't added new members, and I believe that's our state delegation has to direct that. Am I right about that?
Charter.
It's in the charter.
With the ADD.
It's a charter of the ADDA.
Because I know we have to ask our state delegation to bring up when we actually expand the area, the geographical area, but to expand the actual number of members of that board, don't we have to build to you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking.
That was a constitutional amendment. I'm not sure that at this point you can change the number of members. I can look to see.
But could we ask our state delegation to propose it to the legislature to?
The DDA is a little bit of an oddity because it was created by constitutional amendment originally, and so that was later taken out of the Constitution, but these old legacy constitutional amendment authorities are much more difficult to amend than the ones that are created later by just statute. So I'll look at that to see, but I'm a little doubtful that kind of change can be made.
Question.
Somebody else have a question? Okay. Any further discussion on these items? Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all
I
right.
apologize. I didn't study this hard enough. I admit it. There's no mention of monuments here.
There is.
Is there?
Yes. Local, allow local.
Number 8.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Anybody else want to discuss these items? Okay, are y'all happy with the list to go to the legislature?
With those two additions?
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ma'am?
So move.
A second.
Okay, now all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Jean. The last item on our agenda is item number 16, which is a resolution renaming the tag office at 3025 Lexington Road in memory of former Tax Commissioner Mitch Schrader. So it would be, that building would be named the Mitch Schrader Building. Is there any discussion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
I would like to move. I would also like to have the resolution read. I would be happy to do it since Mitch was a friend of mine and he lived in District 8, but since the mayor is also a friend of Mitch's, if she would prefer to read the resolution as a point of personal privilege, I think it would be appropriate for the commission to allow her to do so.
I will defer to you because it's something that I'm not sure I could get through without a little emotion. But Bill had something to say first.
If you would move to suspend the rules.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a motion to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've suspended the rules. Now we will go to the...
Just so that the public is aware, I would like to, if I had my colleagues' indulgence, to read the resolution, since many of us did know Mitch. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Mitch Schrader was born in Statesboro, Georgia, and grew up in Dublin, Georgia, he studied computer science at the University of Georgia. And whereas Mitch joined the Clarke County Tax Commissioner's office as a delinquent tax officer in November of 1985 at age 24, he was promoted to motor vehicle manager in May of 1986, property tax division manager in June of 1992, and sworn in as deputy tax commissioner on June 30, 2010. And whereas Mitch excelled in every position, was loved and respected by all who worked with him, when he came to work in the Clarke County Tax Commissioner's office, customized technology programs were non-existent in most county offices. Mitch was instrumental in computerization of both property tax and motor vehicle operations, working with software companies to develop programs that were efficient and legally compliant. He also worked on a task force with the county to develop an integrated computer information system. And whereas he was a team player in every way, such as being involved in the county golf tournaments with colleagues and numerous county charity drives. And whereas Mitch fell in love with a beautiful lady, Gail Humphreys, who worked in the elections office across the hall from the tax office. They married in 1991 and became proud parents of Evan in 1997. They were a great team. Gail eventually became the manager of the elections office, and Mitch was elected tax commissioner in 2010 and re-elected in 2012. They were both devoted to Athens-Clarke County and the community. And whereas Mitch received the most prestigious award in 2015 by being named Georgia Association of Tax Officials Tax Commissioner of the Year. And whereas sadly Mitch was diagnosed with cancer and died on May 30th, 2016, his greatest concern next to Gail and Evan were the employees of the tax offices. And whereas after Mitch's death, the Western Judicial Circuit Bar Association presented a joint award to Mitch and Gail Schrader for their commitments to the overall community and specifically to the legal community. Now, therefore, in recognition of his 3 decades of service to Athens-Clarke County, and in gratitude for the love and commitment he had for his fellow employees, Athens-Clarke County citizens, and other tax offices throughout the state through the Association of Tax Commissioners, the Mayor and Commissioner of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, hereby resolves that the motor vehicle office located at 3025 Lexington Road shall be known as the Mitch Schrader Motor Vehicle Office. So resolved this day, the 6th day of November 2018.
Thank you. You did a good job of reading that. I had a very hard time writing it, so I don't know whether I could have read it publicly or not. Okay, we haven't had a vote yet, so we need to vote.
I would move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I want to thank you all for this being a unanimous vote. I was hoping to keep it, that it would sort of stay under wraps till after we voted, because I believe that Gail doesn't know about it yet. So I'll have the pleasure of calling her tonight and telling her, so thank
You
you.
mean she's not watching our meeting?
I doubt it. If I was, I think she's out of the country right now. So,
Not sure where she is.
yeah. So it's hard to keep up with her. So thank you all very much for that. And we're in under suspension of rules, so we have an, item number 17 relates to the insurance for some retirees. Would you read the ordinance, Mr. Berryman?
Yes, ma'am, there are two. The first is an ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to retiree health insurance and for other purposes. The next is an ordinance to amend the FY 2019 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide funding for the settlement agreement regarding retiree health insurance benefits and for other purposes.
So moved.
Did you read both of them, Bill? I'm sorry. Okay. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 18 are the appointments to various boards and authorities and commissions, and the mayor and commission act as a committee of the whole to make these as the nominating committee of the whole. And so we will, if we have a motion and a vote, then I'll tell y'all who they are. Have a
So moved.
motion.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And these people who have agreed to serve, which we so much appreciate, because I don't think this body could do their jobs without the help of our citizens that help us not in just this, but in so many ways. Athens-Clarke County Hospital Development Authority, Ken Paris. I'm sorry. Yes, I got it. There was something in parentheses that I didn't read. Okay, Ken Paris, who is reappointed for a 2-year term. Athens-Clarke County Library Board, Teresa Cullen, reappointed for a 5-year term expiring 12/31 of 23. Terrence Jordan, I want to make sure I was pronouncing that right, to a 5-year term expiring 12/31/23. John Timmons Jr., reappointment for a 5-year term expiring 12/31/23. The Board of Tax Assessors, Jeb Bradbury has been reappointed for a 6-year term that expires 12/31/24. Construction Board of Appeals, Smith Wilson has been reappointed for a 5-year term expiring 11/30/23. And William Belger for a 5-year term expiring 11/30/23. Our Hospital Authority, Dr. Carl Barnett for a 6-year term expiring 2/28 of 25. Bill Bland, a 6-year term expiring 2/28/25. And Roswell Lawrence, 6-year term expiring 2/28/25. So thank you to these citizens, and thank you to those who applied that were not selected this time. And we've got a lot of good citizens that sometimes we don't have enough places to put them. So please keep an eye on these openings, and if you're interested, make an application to us. And we will now go to our planning items. You don't need the screen, do you? And yes, ma'am. Our planning department recommendations are handled separately, one at a time. So we have our public input, then discussion, vote, then go to the next one. And the first one is a request of Richard Dwyer for Neil Brothers. I think maybe need to start getting glasses now. Would anybody like to open that discussion? That's in District 7. Well, I'm sorry, I just have public input. Yeah. Anyone wish to speak to that item?
I would like to know that we did receive a call this afternoon from the applicant who got crossed up with the dates and Election Day, and they were going to try to move things around to get here, but...
Oh, they're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They're great.
They weren't sure when we talked to them, so,
Right.
okay.
Okay, seeing nobody that wants to comment, we'll come behind the rail.
Madam Mayor, could we be sure the applicant knows that this is his opportunity to make a comment?
Yes, sir. Did you understand that this is the time to make a comment if you'd like to? Okay. You don't have to, that's all right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Okay. Okay, it's in District 7, which is...
That's me.
Ms. Bell.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's a wonderful location for another venture. I travel that way quite a bit, going to pick up grandchild at Cedar Shoals, and I wish you well with the journey. You know the roundabout's going to take a little while to get done, but you'll be able to survive. It'll be worth it at the end of the day. So I hope things will go forward for you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Any further discussion or a motion?
I make the motion that we accept this, move forward.
Second.
And would you read the ordinance, Mr. Behrman?
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to rezoning a parcel of land comprising approximately 0.72 acres located at 860 Whitehall Road from RS-15 Single Family Residential to CR Commercial Rural and for other purposes.
Thank you. Have a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, our next item is a text amendment from our Planning Commission recommendation for changes to Code Section 7.4 related to signs and billboards. Is there any discussion on that? Public input. Any public input on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll come behind the rail. Is there any discussion behind the rail?
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry, we were supposed to read.
Oh, ordinance, okay.
An ordinance to amend the Code of
won't
Athens-Clarke
get out
County,
of it.
Georgia with respect to billboards and for other purposes.
Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we go to our reconsideration item. Who would like to make a motion or a presentation on that?
Sure. So some of this came up, obviously, we've already had a fair conversation before we even got this meeting really underway, that part of the reason we're wanting to address this is that there was not an opportunity for Commissioner Neesmith to weigh in some of his concerns about the plan, in addition to the fact that it's a huge plan and we haven't gone through it, as a commission, as a body, to look at the priorities and understand truly why the priorities are what they are. And what was approved at the meeting, what I just passed out, the clerk had made copies of the minutes from the meeting, so you would know what was approved was a motion by Commissioner Wright to accept the bike ped master plan and to authorize staff to proceed with concept development of the first phase of bike and pedestrian projects that were listed in the agenda report. And the concern is that some of those bike pedestrian projects had not had an opportunity for us to truly understand why they were being brought forward. One in particular is Cedar Shoals, the bike facility. There's a delineated facility already on that road, and yet the bike ped master plan calls for spending upwards of $1 million out of that $6 million that is available to improve those facilities. And I think there's a better need to understand that, and for the mayor and commission to, as we understand from staff, staff actually told us that any of those 18 projects, at least for the bike projects in Tier 1, could be elevated to, be funded. That was a recommendation made by the citizen group, but there hasn't been any opportunity for the mayor and commission to weigh in on that. And so to move forward with concept development and spend money on 5 of the 18 projects when there hasn't been more understanding of why those 5 versus the other, when we've been told pretty much any of the others could have been brought forward out of those 18, it seems, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Neesmith.
I I'm getting the blame or responsibility for just not being here, but there's more to it than that, and that is the ability to modify and change this plan. The choice was to make this incredible commission-defined option, changing the bike ped master plan in ways that are, for me, perhaps would be reasonable, but impossible for the rest for us to really understand and digest. So a part of the goal here is for us not only to understand it better by looking at this in a work session, to understand the priorities and the rationale, but also to come up with a method, a process, a policy for changing the plan. We don't have that, and we need that now before any dollars get spent, before any projects get approved, because they may not be what we really want in priorities. We don't know. We haven't talked about it. It's interesting that the West Side has no top priority plans in this. And I believe if arguments could have been made, we would have seen that Mitchell Bridge Road, for example, really needs sidewalks. We have a bus stop out there with no sidewalks on a street that you cannot walk down. In fact, we had a citizen who was ticketed for walking on the wrong side of the road of Mitchell Bridge Road a couple of weekends ago because it wasn't safe to walk on the side of the road facing traffic. But the officer enforced the law and ticketed the citizen. So that's just an example of things we need to look at closer, and we need to be advocates for our districts and being sure that we have a fair share, an appropriately fair share of this effort, and we haven't had that opportunity.
Yes. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I see that on January 10, we have as a work session topic, Athens in Motion concept development. Might that be the time that we nail this down? Is that what you guys are looking for in this reconsideration?
We are looking for a work session for a week where we get.
So I
more
make a
discussion.
motion that we work this out at our work session on January 10th because it's on the schedule. And it's for concept development and talking about what's missing. We need a work session. We have one January 10th, so I make a motion that we do
Could I
with it
offer a
then.
friendly amendment, and that is that we direct staff to provide a process, a suggested process for changes in the plan in going forward?
I think that we need everybody to be present so that we don't have to reconsider. And
I'm
if we
sorry,
have
I'm
everybody
talking-
present at the work session, then they will know how to process what we bring forward.
Okay, so you're saying that we should discuss a policy
Discuss what
for
needs to be
making
discussed.
changes? Okay.
In a work session, and it's already on the schedule for January 10th.
Have a motion. Do I
Do I
have a second?
Second.
That's a
Excuse me, Mr. Barry.
procedural suggestion, because this matter has now been reconsidered, so it's as if it were before you for the first time. So in the original motion, you accepted the bicycle plan, and then you did some other things, and it seems to me you want to at least accept the plan and then do whatever else you think is necessary.
Oh. Then I withdraw my motion, now that I'm learning what we're supposed to be doing for this reconsideration.
Madam Mayor, may I suggest some language?
Yes, sir.
So I would like to make a motion that we accept the bike pedestrian master plan branded Athens in Motion as shown in attachment 1 and appendices A through D of the agenda report revised September 26, 2018, and authorize staff to proceed with concept development of the first phase with the understanding that said concept developments will be presented to the mayor and commission at a work session, along with discussion of opportunities for future modifications to the Athens in Motion plan.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand what's going on now? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Roll call, please.
Gertz,
Yes.
Hamby,
Going backwards now.
Y'all just trust her. She knows what she's doing.
When your name comes up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm expected to go this way. Yes.
Dickerson,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Neesmith?
Yes.
Bale?
Yes.
Harrod? 8 yes, 1 no.
Okay.
You're trying to keep us on our toes tonight, aren't you, Gina?
And now is the time that anyone that wishes to speak to us on any item that was not on tonight's agenda, please come and talk to us. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, everybody. I'm Paula Loniak. I live in Oglethorpe County against my will. I've been attending as many government meetings as possible that include affordable housing needs in Athens-Clarke County for the past 3 years. I'm frustrated and discouraged at this point. Scrolling through all of the handouts and notes and citizen ideas and many opinions, it's difficult to pare it down, but I'll hit on some major issues. There's been a shift in the types of people who are trying to find affordable housing over the past decade or so, from single family to individuals, suggesting that large houses aren't necessary, or at least more of them. Our housing market doesn't reflect this shift. Developers are still cranking out student housing compounds downtown and McMansion developments on the periphery of Athens-Clarke County. The workforce continues to be neglected, and many long-term citizens, people who have lived and worked in Athens-Clarke County for decades, are being forced to move out of Athens-Clarke County to be able to afford the housing they need or want. It affects local merchants as well. I'm one of the people who's been forced out, and I'm extremely unhappy to be living in Oglethorpe County for the past 2 years due to Athens-Clarke County officials being unable or unwilling or postponing addressing the zoning changes that would permit tiny houses or tiny house communities in Athens. I have to drive 30 minutes to get to anywhere I need or want to go. I'm isolated out there, which seriously affects my mental health and my income, as well as wasting gas for my car. My opportunities to socialize are slim to none. The workforce housing study proved that there's a serious shortage of affordable housing for the people who live and work in Athens and who provide the necessary and desired needs of all citizens. That report, which Athens-Clarke County paid tens of thousands of dollars for, was revealed in the summer of 2016. Yet the need for more affordable housing that's in good condition is still sorely needed and in short supply. If I'm interpreting the Comprehensive Plan 2018 results correctly, more affordable housing is scheduled for attention in 2020. What are we waiting for? Trying to attract wealthy retirees from outside of Athens-Clarke County or Georgia is a slap in the face of those of us who've lived and worked here for decades. Enough said. Corridor development is another opportunity for creating affordable housing. Those little banners on Lexington Road at a couple of intersections are difficult to read or even notice while driving past. How much should we spend on them? Development of the corridors should be done to improve the land use of Athens-Clarke County. There are still plenty of properties along all of the main corridors in and out of Athens-Clarke County. An excellent use for some of these properties would be government-funded affordable housing, such as tiny house communities. The tiny house communities have been successfully created in many cities and towns across the country. If they can make them work, why can't Athens-Clarke County? I've yet to get an answer to that question. There's so much more and not enough time to mention everything that I've noted over the past 3 years. I'd love to see some advancement of something toward creating tiny house communities in the coming year. Thank you.
Dr. Moniak.
Hi, my name is Latoya Hill, 1010 Wellington Court, Bogart.
My name is Shalon Bradford, 307 Jasmine Trail. I'm in Athens, Georgia.
Hello, I am Takika Platt of 117 East Surrey Court here in Athens. Good evening, Mayor Denson, Mayor-elect, and Commissioners. 2 years and 6 months ago, my family and I came before you to request that Flint Street be renamed Jenny L. Maddox Street in honor of deceased community leader, my grandmother, her grandmother, Mrs. Jenny Lou Maddox. We were later met with opposition from some of Flint Street's residents due to their the extensive time that they lived on the street with its current name and fear of not receiving Medicare checks and ambulatory service should the name be changed. Something I didn't state is that we then rescinded basically our request. So we're back today. Today, we are requesting that State Street instead be renamed Jenny L. Maddox Street. There are no addresses or residents on State Street. And other than its stately definition, it has no historical distinction as it is a generic name. We chose this street based on that information. Also, its proximity to my grandmother's final residence, which was 124 Parkview Homes Extension, and its location to an Athens staple, the Linden House, much like my grandmother. Mrs. Maddox was a much-loved staff member of the Morton Theater in the 1960s. She later became center leader for the Parkview Recreation Center for 18 years from 1974 through 1992. Recently, the Intercommunity Council, of which she was a member from 1999 through 2015, and board president from 2004 to 2014, chose to name its building the Cameron Maddox Resource Center to commemorate her and Mrs. Cameron's legacy. In later years, just as in her previous positions, she was more of an advocate than an employee, this time for elderly citizens of the community at the Council on Aging from 2003 through 2008. She received countless awards over her lifetime, from her appointment to the AHA Board of Commissioners as resident representative to the Key to the City from former Mayor Gwen O'Looney. Gwen O'Looney also spoke at her homegoing service, as well as at the March Mayor and Commissioner meeting back in 2016 in support of our previous request. Even her funeral was held at the Classic Center of Athens, given her volunteerism at many of their events. Yet to know her was not to know her accolades, but her love for her 5 children, her love of serving, and desire for all to succeed, but most importantly, her love for Christ. These are the attributes that made her such a beloved center, community, church leader, and more throughout all of Athens. Therefore, we hope you too find it befitting to honor her with this street in the city that she held so dear to her heart. We want to again thank Commissioner Wright for her help, guidance, and perseverance with us in this process that started so long ago, or seems like so long ago, and Mayor-elect Gertz for jumping on board in less than 24 hours notice with a big shift. Anyway, thank you so much for your help. Should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact either of us that are listed on the letter with our phone numbers and addresses. Thank you.
Thank you, LaToya. And in case anybody thinks I'm playing favorites, that was because they went well past the 3 minutes. That was actually 3 people speaking to us. So I gave some discretion on their time. Yes, ma'am.
Sydney Bacchus, P.O. Box 174, Athens. I'm here to let you know that the Athens-Clarke County project request process for the SPLOST 2020 online submittal violates the Americans with Disabilities Act and is discriminatory. Specifically, that process requires that all SPLOST 2020 project submittals by residents be submitted using only a detailed electronic online form template. I have a visual impairment that constitutes a disability pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, that prevents me from using these types of multi-page interactive electronic forms that are the only option for submitting the project submittals. This is overly restrictive submittal, and it discriminates against residents who do not have online access or other means of submitting a proposal. It also discriminates against residents who have limited access to transportation to make multiple attempts to complete these forms at the ACC library computer or at one of the offices of one of the corresponding contacts or department directors that are listed online for the ACC SPLOST project request form template. Additionally, the ACC SPLOST 2020 form requires the submittal to provide their phone number. This requirement discriminates against domestic abuse victims and other victims who cannot provide a phone number for safety reasons or because they do not own a phone, as is the case for me. I have contacted, and by the way, I was encouraged by Mayor-elect Gertz to submit a SPLOST proposal, but after reviewing all the forms and documents that could be downloaded, I realized this would not be possible. I've also sent emails to Frank Stevens, the Athens-Clarke County Director of Public Utilities, requesting his assistance, but as of the time of this preparing these comments, I had not gotten a response. So my requested action is that you allow an additional option for submitting SPLOST 2020 project proposals from citizens that does not require a phone number, but accepts email addresses and does not require online submittals using that electronic submittal form. Instead, accept PDF submittals to one of the designated ACC contacts, directors provided by email, and including the information requested on the submittal form. And these and more extensive comments are provided on the document that I've already provided to the attorney, Athens-Clarke County Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bacchus.
I'm Molly Swan, 2200 Shoal Creek Drive, Athens. And I'm here to voice my objections to the planned SPLOST money going towards the airport development. I live next to the airport, and I'm just really, really shaken by the noise pollution of the air traffic that's already there. And the idea of trying to bring in Delta jets or military aircraft is just devastating to me. I'm thinking about the Cedar Creek community and the value of properties over there being impacted by really large aircraft coming and going through there. My old mother's 92. She's told me this week she wants to come and live with me in Athens and start looking for a house that we can share that would have separate living areas. The first place I thought of was Cedar Creek. It's near where I live. I like it over there. It's affordable. And then I thought about the airport expansion, and I went, guess we got to go to Oconee County. And that makes me ill. I don't understand all this going for airport expansion and the money it's going to bring in and everything, and people not thinking about the quality of life of residents that have lived there for years. So I'm just objecting to that, and I don't know what the solution is because so much money has already been set aside for this, but I ask you to think about citizens' lives, and a lot of us live around that airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swan. Does anyone else wishes to speak to us? Okay, we're going to come behind the rail, and this is a time for our reports and or comments from mayor and staff and commissioners. And tonight I have a couple of things. I want to remind everybody that our next work session, which will be on, it's writing on the back of it, excuse me, on November the 13th, beginning at 5:30, will be televised from the commission chambers here. And so that's a change in our process, and that will be the process going forward. And Tuesday, November the 20th is a special call session beginning at 4:30 at City Hall Commission Chambers, and the purpose will be to hear an appeal for Historic Preservation Commission, and we must have a quorum, and that's for our commissioners. So be sure and put that on your calendar, November the 20th at 4:30. And I believe that's all I've got for you tonight. Mr. Williams.
Yes, I have one thing. I sent a notice of proposed administrative action to request that we add several projects to the SPLOST submissions. And these are emergency management projects. The three in particular are replacing and installing generators at critical facilities. The second is installing transfer switches. And the third is providing surge protection for government buildings. I did get a response from Commissioner Link seeing if we could put some language in there that at least alternative energy could be considered for the generators. And certainly we can look at what options are there. Obviously, the bottom line is it's got to come on when we need it to. But we can accept those or something like that and putting that forward. And so I just wanted, the clerk advised me we need to enter that into the record.
Yes, sir. Anything else? Mr. Bierman?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Maddox?
Yes, I have two things. First, I would like to thank the citizens of Athens-Clarke County who completed the customer satisfaction survey for the Water Business Office. We sent an email directly to 8,500 individuals provided by the Water Business Office, and we received over 1,200 completed surveys, so we're very happy with that number. So I wanted to say thank you to all those who took the time to complete the survey. And the second thing is we are submitting the Sheriff's Office report, the audit report, tomorrow. And I just wanted to inform you all of that information. And that's it.
Thank you. And we will hear from all of our commissioners, and we'll start with Mr. Herod.
I got a lot of things I'd like to say, but I'm not going to say anything.
Ms. Bell?
I want to rest. It's been a tough day. Thank you.
Mr. Hamby?
It's been a fine day, but for me it has, I guess. I have nothing either, so I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I pass.
Well, I wanted to thank the Maddox family, and I have been working with them because it had started with a street in my district, so that's where our long journey together, and coaching her brilliant idea of picking a street that doesn't have any residents that would be concerned about that. And then, so the process is the family or the petitioner turning in their written request, and then that will start our process that we have established. And then we'll learn more about that as that gets done and notifying the people that live around that area. I did want to congratulate the University of Georgia football team for winning the SEC East and representing us in Atlanta. That game will happen by the time we meet again for voting. So I wanted to congratulate them on that and look forward to our rematch in Atlanta against that other team. Okay, that's all I have.
I just want to acknowledge Ms. Loniak, who came to the podium to talk again about affordable housing and tiny houses and the need to diversify our housing stock to accommodate our workforce within Athens-Clarke County. And I do hope that we can take a comprehensive reanalysis of our land use and zoning map to come up with ways to make that kind of affordable housing easier to develop or developable at all. So I look forward to getting started on that very soon.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
I just want to say to the Maddox family, as a resident of Flint Street, I remember getting that letter in the mail with your petition to have the street changed. I'm sorry that that didn't work out, but I'm actually excited to hear that there might be the potential to get an even better street that is more prominent and worthy of the commitments and efforts that your grandmother and mother put into our community. So I want to thank her for her service and keep my fingers crossed for y'all that we can get that happening soon.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things. The East Athens Business Leaders Association meets this next Tuesday, November 13th at 1 o'clock. David, I think his name is Staub. He says Small Business Development Corporation works for them. Will come and speak to the group. It's at Texton United Methodist on Lexington Road. I also want to point out that out of the bus shelter artists, 2 were selected from District 1, Bob and Claire Clements, which many people know. They actually received 3 projects. I also want to thank, although it's not in my district, but I travel that road a fair amount, thank Landscape Management for the plantings, the new plantings. I think they're some sort of a fern or something on Cedar Shoals in the refuge islands. I think they look really nice, a nice compliment for this time of year. See some green. And then I guess I'd like to, just make one final comment about what has happened with Barnett Shoals Road. It has taken a significant amount of time and effort to work through all the information we were given. And I can't say, I'm winding up my 4 years as a commissioner. I cannot say that we've ever had the type of response from the public. We've asked for input from the public. We've made other decisions with significantly less input from the public that has been supportive of those individuals who've come to speak to us. And I'm extremely disappointed that some of my fellow colleagues who sit behind the rail with me chose to side with special interest instead of with the community that they've been elected to serve with. With that, I motion for adjourn.
Second.
Executive session.
And if you all will excuse us, we'll go into closed session. Do I have a motion to go into?
I think Andy seconded. Didn't you?
Have a motion to adjourn our normal meeting? Yes. And I've been asked to do a break. But before that, can we have a motion to go into executive session?
I think we, yeah. So.
Do I have a motion to
Yeah, we did.
I thought we already voted on it.
no.
Didn't we already vote on it? Motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, we just did, but don't we vote to adjourn? Yeah.
Okay, so we voted for a second executive session. So motion to adjourn?
Okay, second. All in favor?
Got a second? Kelly? Jean? Kelly, he
All in,
seconded the motion
all in
to
favor?
adjourn?
I hear no no's, so that it
All in
wins.
favor? Okay. Jean's like, who? Give me somebody.
And y'all please try to get back in about 10 minutes.